If you were watching just this past Friday, I briefly talked about a system that might impact the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico, move back into Florida, not be an issue at all for us. At that time, I was thinking the chance that it might head in our direction was less than 10%. Over the weekend, those odds improved, and then just this morning, they've improved even more, and all of a sudden, we find ourselves in a situation where we really need to keep a close eye on what's happening out there in the Gulf of Mexico. Here's what we know right now. Tropical formation odds through Saturday have now gone up to 80%, and we think that will start to take place sometime Wednesday and beyond, most likely on Thursday or so when the system finally does make it out into the Gulf of Mexico. It's over land right now. Wind shear is light. Gulf waters out there warmer than normal, so that basically means that conditions are favorable for development when the system does make it into the Gulf of Mexico, and the chance of Texas impacts have greatly improved, and so you want to make sure that you stay weather aware for the next several days to see what happens with this system. Now, we use our water vapor satellite to show us what's happening in the middle and upper atmosphere. It does the best job, even in the absence of clouds or storms, of showing us where there might be some spin in the atmosphere. And if you look closely here, just south and southeast of Atlanta, you see a bit of a counterclockwise spin there. That is the circulation that is moving in a southward direction right now, and once it makes it into the Gulf of Mexico, it will have a chance of development according to our computer models and according to the National Hurricane Center. Notice how on our tropical satellite, outside of one little blip there to the west of Columbia, South Carolina, that's the only indication that there's anything happening out there. That's the reason why we're showing you the water vapor as well. Now, our computer models indicate that this system is going to be moving in a south and southwest direction, eventually making it inside of this hashed area here, again, where conditions are favorable for development. Again, the National Hurricane Center is saying an 80% chance of development sometime later on this week in this hashed area. If you were watching just yesterday, Travis and Alita were showing you that the cutoff was basically from southeast Louisiana onto the east. Now it's been extended a little bit further to the west. That goes along with what our computer models are saying, and that this system could eventually track in that direction. Here's the change that's happened in the last 24 hours. Here's the European computer model. It picks up on that spin in the middle parts of the atmosphere, and it takes it south into the Gulf of Mexico, potentially developing, starting to develop as we get into the middle to the latter parts of the week. Here's the change, though. Just last week, it was saying this system is going to head back north into parts of Alabama and Georgia. Now the computer models have changed due to an area of high pressure that's sitting over parts of Arkansas, Mississippi, northern Louisiana. Is going to track around that across the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico, potentially affecting the state of Texas as we get towards the end of the week and into the weekend. Here is the United States GFS model. It basically does the same thing. It takes it south into the Gulf of Mexico and then tracks it west after that, potentially affecting southeast Texas as we begin to approach the latter parts of this weekend into this weekend. What does that mean? That means you do not want to wait until later on this week to begin to prepare for the potential that this system could hit. You probably want to start doing that today. One of the things you can do today is to go ahead and get your hurricane kit together, and one of the important things you can do is back up your important papers. So you might want to scan those, get them on a disk, something that you can put in your pocket and take with you in case you have to evacuate. If you are in a storm surge zone, you want to go ahead and start making plans right now with where you might go in case the system does move in that direction, and in case it is something more than a tropical storm, say a hurricane. It's not completely out of the possibility that we might be dealing with a hurricane later on this week. And the last thing you want to do today is stay aware, keep up with the forecast all throughout the day and for the rest of this week as well, and what might be happening with this tropical system. So that's what we have for you right now. We're on Facebook Live, so I'm sure there are a lot of people that might have some questions there. Holly, my executive producer, standing by with some of those questions. Holly, what are people talking about? I'm sure this is a big surprise to a lot of people watching.
Well, I would say overwhelmingly people are just asking, I guess, is it really time to prepare? Should I go out? Should I get the water? You have your checklist.
Yeah.
Is it that serious of an event that we should be taking these steps right now?
I think it is serious enough of a threat to go ahead and start preparing right now. Now, if you go ahead and prepare right now and it goes in another direction, well, nothing lost there. But I think it is a serious enough situation, guys, that you want to go ahead and start thinking about if this thing were to move in our direction, if it was a tropical storm or maybe even a hurricane, what do I need to start doing today to get ready for that eventuality? So if you have some weekend plans, obviously you want to pay attention to the forecast. You don't want to wait until it's time to evacuate to figure out where you're going to go. Now might be a good time to maybe call that relative that lives a little bit farther away from the coast and, hey, can I come stay with you guys just in case there's going to be something that moves in this direction? So I think now is the time to go ahead and do that. We've seen enough evidence in our computer models to say that there is a decent possibility that we're going to be impacted by this system later on this week. All right, any more questions?
Yes, and Brittany is someone who's responding, and she says she's definitely going to be getting a few things together this evening, so she says thank you. We have another person, you know, whether humorous or not, but he's asking, Jason asks, is this an umbrella situation or scuba gear issue? Just give me your best guess.
You know what? Okay, I'll go ahead and put this out to you. I don't see any situation where, at least right now, that this system is going to slow down and stall. So this doesn't look like one of our famous stalling systems that we've seen so many times. But wind could be an issue with this, depending on how strong it gets. So I think the storm that comes to mind a little bit more, and I'm not saying that this is going to be one of these storms like this, but the storm that comes to mind to me is Hurricane Alicia. It was a situation somewhat similar to this. You had a disturbance track off land into the Gulf of Mexico. Conditions were favorable. It developed very quickly and it moved in our direction. This sort of hints at something like that. Not saying it's going to be anywhere near as strong as Alicia, but I'm not going to take that off of the table at all. And that is the reason why you want to go ahead and start getting ready today for what might be a major situation later on this week.
Well, and Tina tells us that she's getting married on Saturday, so I'm sure she's hoping you can give her a better forecast.
Tina's getting married on Saturday.
Tina's getting married on Saturday.
Nothing is written in stone. I'm not saying, you know, cancel the wedding or anything like that. Just as quickly as we went from, hey, it's not going to affect us at all to, hey, this thing could actually move in our direction, it may very well just move north into Louisiana and never make it to the state of Texas. So that's still on the table, but we just want to make sure, we want to get the message out there that it is possible that this system could move right towards the state of Texas.
And Natalia is asking, is it going to develop into a hurricane?
Okay, Natalia is saying, is it going to develop into a hurricane? It's possible. Conditions are favorable. I got in this morning, I looked at just about everything that I could look at to see if that was even on the table. And once I realized that there was virtually no wind shear out there over the northern Gulf of Mexico, once I realized how warm the water is at this time, and then once I looked at what some of the trusted computer models are saying is going to happen with this system, I began to realize that in 4 to 5 days, on the upper Texas coast, we could be dealing with a strong tropical storm or maybe even a hurricane. And that's when I went to prepare this graphic right here, because the last thing we want to do is wait until Wednesday to start to prepare for a hurricane strike, which could happen maybe Friday night into Saturday. So now's the time to start thinking about, in case something like this does happen, what can I do today to start to prepare myself? And these are some of the things that I came up with.
And when you brought up Hurricane Alicia, a lot of people are sharing their memories now of Hurricane Alicia on this thread. We have someone else asking, Eric, does it have a chance of coming in and going back out?
Does it have a chance of coming in and going back out? I guess making it into Southeast Texas and moving back out? Not according to what I've been seeing. What I've been seeing in the model so far this morning is basically a somewhat of a quick hitting system that comes in and keeps on going. Of course, we've been through so many storms here in Southeast Texas. We know what happens when the storm stalls, when it backs up and moves back out into the Gulf of Mexico. That typically results in a tremendous rainstorm and flash flood. I don't see anything like that in the models right now. If something like that were to change, of course, we would let you know immediately. But what we see right now is a system that would probably be moving at a decently fast pace, potentially hit southeast Texas, the upper Texas coast, and then move on after that. So that's what we have for you right now. We're going to be watching this system, of course, for the rest of the day and throughout the week as well. If there are any updates, we will let you know about that. Make sure that you tune in today at 3 o'clock, 4, 5, 6, and 10. We're going to have the latest on this potential tropical situation. We'll see you then.